What's up, everybody? Wes, Dead Air Night here with Always.
Typical Lydia.
You are listening to the Dead Air Podcast. Today's show, we're doing the 1988 classic 976 Evil.
That's a pretty good rendition of a touch tone phone. I was holding out for a rotary. I absolutely love this film. I had not seen it until only like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. It was like so seminal to so many young generation of horror fans coming up in that goony 80s horror kind of swath that hit horror movie making in the rental stores. This is when I saw in the rental stores all the time. And it just didn't speak to me, I guess, like Ghoulies or Evil Dead did. And I never watched it until recently. And I feel so ripped off that I didn't grow up loving this movie.
There are sequences in this film that are ingrained in people's minds. And it could almost make you forget about tons of other aspects of this movie that are weird, because you focus in on this just beautiful filmmaking. And even if you find that in some places the plot can be a little lightweight, we might lose track of our protagonists if you can figure out who that might be. We still have some of the best set direction and set design in a horror movie just by virtue of the fact that everything feels so lived in. And there's just art direction within an inch of its life. Walls are covered in graffiti, horror posters, and one horror poster that's even foreshadowing.
Absolutely.
Next episode. But we'll get to that later, because I'm very excited to talk about this film, and I'm surprised we haven't done it earlier. Feel like we've been saying that a lot lately.
Yeah. I think it's because on one hand, we did cover some more recent films last year, which is something we typically don't do. We often give in to our whims or thread stories together, right? In a way, whether it is, we're going to do movies that take place in schools, or we're going to do movies that remind us of hot summers, or we're doing a Stephen King-a-palooza, which goes without saying, or we're going to do things that were 90s movies that were overlooked. We didn't really do that so much last year. We peppered in quite a few new releases, mostly to acquaint Wes with Alice Perkins, partially, and just because there were some very interesting things coming out last year. So I guess my idea this year was to get a little bit back into our original whims for this, right? So here we are, leading into the next movie, which we won't talk about yet, but this was one that we have wanted to do for a while. And it's not one that we refer to a lot, like Aliens or something that we talk about, or Scooby-Doo, things that we talk about all the time on the show. It's sort of that undersung one that we don't talk about often. If we were going to talk about Stephen Jeffries, we would talk about his other role. We wouldn't talk about this because it didn't stick out. And also, I hadn't fucking seen it, which, when people mention it, I'd just be like, oh, yeah, 976 people, which I will, like I said in the last episode, probably refer to as 967 Evil over and over because of the number of pizza from Toronto, which is 967-1111. If you're interested in ordering a pizza. There was a viral commercial when I was younger that my friends used to sing. I didn't sing it because I didn't watch cable television at the time, but they did. So it got stuck in my head. I will probably say it wrong.
That's okay. You want to know something interesting? Is I remember being 737-1111. So I think in at least this area it was 737. But yeah, the Toronto connection makes a whole lot of sense. I feel like one of the reasons why this film might not have connected with you is the title. The title's weird.
Yeah.
And even now in the modern times, the title itself is a relic, a 976 number. Even people who are our age might be more familiar with a 900 number.
Yeah.
As opposed to 976. It really was a flash in the pan moment, although I understand some of these numbers are still in use to this day. But this was a real business model. And for our younger viewers or people who don't remember, this was a phenomenon in which you would call and there would be an additional charge. And a lot of these were weird services that were hyper specific. So it would be something like getting the weather, or somebody you want to talk, get movie quotes from some movie that is coming out into theaters, that something for fun. It was like, it could be anything like that, a lot of sex work. And so these 976, this title 976 Evil, it's kind of dull. And it really belies how fun this movie is. And for anybody that is interested in films with this aesthetic, the most famous one is Return of the Living Dead. And so it has this kind of like movie punk, movie no good Nick aspect to it, where things seem dirty, but also it feels like a set. It feels like you're a movie and no one is really that person, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And it is sort of a dream land, not in a Lynchian sense and not in a very overt sense where things are fantastical. It's that everyday dreamland, like you're having a dream about going to work, that sort of level of dreamland. And that's what, like, typical movie magic, right? Like, your messy kitchen is never quite that messy. Your messy locker room is never quite that spray painted. But here in this world where everyone has every movie poster known to man, that's how dirty or spray painted these things are. But also the fashion, like, it is very boiled in 1988 street fashion that, you don't really see it outside of this anymore. You can see people emulating it. You can go to Harajuku and go to a fashion district in New York or whatever and see people kind of trying to emulate this particular street fashion. But I think by and large, a lot of the styling were these people's clothes. This was their street wear. I really think it was, because you can't get that kind of costume design quite right, and they do it so well in this and a few other movies from this era, where I think they were really relying on the aesthetics and choices of their actors.
There's also a weird meta quality, not in the dialogue or even the plot lines, but because there's so much references to horror movies itself, sometimes with costuming. There's one character that just has a revolving door of horror tank tops. There's, as we said, horror movie posters every which way. And the fantasy element comes in because you can imagine that these punks swinging beers and playing cards all day long, their hangout is a 24-hour $199 horror movie marathon theater that does nothing but play horror movies. And the interior is just plastered with more horror movies. So, a lot of people give credit to meta horror starting with Wes Craven, not just with Scream, but even before that with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Those are always the movies that are cited first. But there were tons of horror movies that were acknowledging, either through dialogue or through art direction, that this was a horror movie. And it was everything from evil laugh and characters hanging around holding Fangoria magazines and telling you the plot of a horror movie. It's Tom Hanks and He Knows You're Alone giving an entire monologue about the tropes of a slasher movie at the beginning of the golden era of slashers. And so now we have this movie in 1988 that seems like it's made for people who like horror movies, and not just an audience that sees horror movies amongst everything, but specifically people who go to see horror movies, and perhaps only horror movies.
Like us, for the most part. Really, honestly, we would be very at home at a 24-hour film review theater that only played horror movies. Like, what an amazing time to be alive. And Now, that seems like a throwback. That seems like something you would never ever see, but that would have been the norm in some even small towns to have a midnight review, and hell, might as well have it 24 hours and see how that does for a week. And we know what people really like this. We can just run these cheap ass horror movies we already own for super cheap and just keep the place open, and we'll get a bunch of no good nicks to run it. Who cares if they play poker in the off times? As long as someone switches the reels, it doesn't matter. There's probably theaters that behaved exactly like that. And that's probably, to a certain extent, a lot of how theaters here, like the Mayfair, sort of ran for a certain amount of time. But like, there are so many throwbacks to older technologies, not just an old theater that actually used film projectors, but rotary dial phones, touch tone phones, 967 numbers without an area code, Wes. Like, how do I even call this number now? Right? Like, do I use 555 before it since this is a film? Is that what I do? I I don't even know how to call these. There were party lines and other things like I never called, like sex chats and things like that that had specific numbers. There's joke numbers in things like 8675309. Jenny, that's Jenny's number. And don't lose it.
I'll try not to.
Transylvania 65000, that's a phone number. That's an even more of a throwback because they're using the TR as the first two digits before there were three digits as the prefix for a phone number. So like, this sort of thing is like not a new thing, but I think that maybe even as a kid, I thought that this was old fashioned.
And it also doesn't really explain what this movie is about, which brings me to a very important question. What is this movie even about anyways, Lids? The title is not going to help us.
No, it's not. This is a movie about addiction and uncertainty and compulsion. When everything's going topsy-turvy in the world, or you're at a dead end, or you're stagnated, what do? Pick up the phone for some direction in life. You have no one to call, no friends that will help you. You call a horoscope line, and then suddenly find yourself addicted to purpose, addicted to either proving it wrong or proving it right. You're addicted to the voice on the other end of the line. I wish that this movie had a better title that drove home, even though it's really kind of very loosely stated in this film, what the point of it is. What has this movie been about anyway? We don't know. I don't think that Robert Englund knew. I don't think anybody fucking knew what it was about, because what was the point of collecting souls? Question mark. I don't know what was really going on there either. But the one through line that we get from the very beginning with people that we don't even know the names of, that they were compelled to call this number. They were obsessed with calling the number and either following through with what it said, finding riches, success, whatever it was that they thought they were going to get from this horoscope. Imagine if you bought, and that's another throwback, go to the five and dime or the convenience store, the corner market, and buy this little paper tube that was your horoscope for the month for $1.99. And it was this little scroll, and it felt so cool to unfurl this little scroll that would tell you what's what. You'd usually lose it or forget about it or find it in the wash a week later. But that wasn't the point. No one actually followed them, but it would be so cool if people did. If it gave me lottery numbers and I played them, or if it told me, like, if you walk down this alley at night and help a damsel in distress, riches will befall you. You're like, fuck, man, where's the closest alley? Like, people were obsessed with this. And if things went wrong or right, didn't matter, they would call the number again and again and again. And I really think that that's the real crux of this story, is this obsession with having a fucking clue, knowing how to like navigate this world. And that's something that I think a lot of people would really like to do with now. Maybe that's why we watch TikTok and scroll through these short videos all the time, because we're looking for that one video that will be like, here's the real solution. Go and find an alley and help a damsel in distress at midnight.
By the way, if at any point you are watching this as a short clip on your favorite streaming app, I would just like to say, hi, welcome. We have the cure that ails ya, and we never fail ya.
Absolutely. It's true. And what is this movie even about? What is every movie even about but entertainment? That's one thing that this movie is wildly entertaining. I really have an idea, and let me know if you agree. This would work better as a book because you'd have the time to explain things like why Hoax is called Hoax, where Spike got his nickname, why their aunt, whose aunt is it? Is it, how is she their aunt? You would explain how people have met. You would explain the people at the beginning. You would explain a little more about Mark Dark. You would be able to have room to explain these things instead of going from set piece to set piece.
Boy, have you just raised a whole bunch of questions that I have for this particular film, because holy fucking shit, I am not joking. So I've seen this movie a few times before, but I really wanted to dial in. So to prepare for this particular episode, I watched this movie 2 goddamn times in a day. And I did that yesterday because one, I was doing laundry and it was taking a long time. So I said, fuck it, wind it back one more time. And secondarily, I was trying to keep straight in my head when certain characters become the protagonist, because we have 3 different protagonists. We also have characters that will decide that they're just not in the movie anymore. We're done being in the movie. And then we come back and now we're in the movie again, just in time for the credits, I suppose. And you also have some very twisted logic in terms of characters' motivations. Why is anybody doing anything? I can, in regards to Hoax, I can put my modern take on it, why he decides to enact his first revenge against Susie, as opposed to, oh, I don't know, the entire gang of punks that's been tormenting him throughout the entire film, and only decides to get his revenge after he accidentally fucking kills her. Or why Spike doesn't seem to really care, aside from punching a locker, that his girlfriend, was murdered by his cousin. Like, why Spike just vanishes from the movie for 35 minutes.
Really? 30, it doesn't seem that long.
Like, I went back and checked. So his last scene where he has significant dialogue is fucking wild. Why do these boys, let's start here, Lids. Why do these boys have a pneumatic tube in between their dwellings?
Well, wasn't pneumatic tubes the most cool thing when you were a kid? Robert Englund is a bit of he gives in to his whims, he is a hedonist, I'd say, in a few ways. So they're probably sitting around being like, I don't know, this tin can and string thing is just so old fashioned. What is the new thing? What would kids do aside from a tin can? Because that's exactly what it is. It's a tin can and a string. It's the walkie-talkies. It's having a party line phone between the 2 houses. We've seen these tactics in movies before, but no one's ever seen a pneumatic tube. So, we got to do that.
You definitely are right about that. Like, it definitely seems like, oh, this is going to be so cool. This is what cool kids, because it reminds me, it's like the bedroom from Big. Yeah. Where you're just imagining like what a kid with money, what a cool kid would want to do. And what a cool kid would do, Lids, is name himself Spike. Let's start there. And secondarily, just out of pure fucking boredom, because a pamphlet falls out of a magazine, a dude who does not look like he even knows what his horoscope sign is going to call a 976 number and immediately check his horoscope. But that's what we're going to be faced with. Now, this movie is going to start off as a very teen-oriented horror movie. We're going to be introduced to Spike, and he's a no-goodnik, Liz. He's hell-bent for leather.
He's a wild child.
He is a wild child. He is gambling, Lids, with his friend, quote-unquote, like like school bullies who also don't seem that bad unless you're Hoax, but are kind of like have like a set of rules, who just really like to gambling, and to let you know that they're real scumbags, Liz. To let you know that they're real perverts. They got nudie cards on top of everything else. Nudie cards, labelless beers, because we ain't paying anybody for swinging this brewski, and we don't have the budget to make our own labels. And also, we have no chips, and no one seems to have a wallet, because there is a startling amount of loose paper money in this movie where no one seems to have a wallet. So I don't get it. But we are introduced to this group of rowdy boys, and Spike is basically going to be indebted to Marcus, who's a very cool kid with some dye in his hair and a horror tank top for every occasion. And he is basically going to have the threat of paying up his gambling debt by giving away his bike. This bike, not only is Spike a cool kid with a motorcycle, but it was his dad's motorcycle. So he's very attached to it. He doesn't want to do that. And this is going to introduce the world of Spike, which includes his dorky, complete with like a fucking pajama onesie style cousin Hoax Arthur, whatever. Like, I guess it's his real fucking name, but I was like, I was going to ask you, is Hoax short for something?
I was not sure. And I was asking this while we're watching it last night, and I was thinking about this, and everywhere I looked, I didn't see like Hoax's real name referred to as much as Spike's, because Spike's real name is Leonard, and they make a big joke about it, like here and there later on in the film. His friends refer to him as Leonard to get under his skin. And I can see why, because Leonard is, I'm surprised they didn't put the L on their foreheads for loser when they were saying Leonard. But yes, his real name's Leonard. So Spike is in quotation marks. Often you see Hoax referred to as Hoax, or what is his actual other name? Arthur? I think it's Hoax.
Yeah, it's Arthur.
They don't refer to him as Arthur throughout the film that I caught. And Hoax is not in quotes. So I think Hoax is his actual name.
When his mom is mad at him, she gives the full govy, like all three names, and it's Hoax is in there.
Yeah.
So you get the sense of like, okay, he's Hoax. Now we are introduced to this world where we got plastic on the couch. We have a very religious, like Tammy Faye Baker style mom. Like,
That's
she
a
wears
good call, because I forgot about Tammy Faye Baker existing, but that is who she looks like a Dolly Parton, Tammy Faye Baker mashup by way of Carrie White's mother.
Yes. And so she is like almost in another movie. Like, people talk about the aunt in Sleepaway Camp as this just peculiar performance that doesn't seem to really fit, dress, or speak in a way that fits the rest of the film, where we have his mother like trilling her R's like she's on the stage. She is wildly eccentric. She has different wigs in every scene. She does her makeup and dress so differently in almost every scene that she's in. Sometimes it looks like a different actor that is playing her. It's really, really startling. And we are going to get this idea that this is a very strict religious household, with the exception of Spike. And I don't know if it's a neighboring house or if it's a garage that has been modified, like he lives above it like the fucking Fonz. Probably. That would be like a reference that Robert Englund would be familiar with. By the way, we're citing Robert Englund. He didn't write the film, but this was his directorial debut, old Freddy Krueger himself, for the people who don't know the name. But so he had directed a couple of horror films. The Phantom of the Opera movie that he did, he directed that one as well. But this was his debut. And I think you can see the love of horror and just wallowing in the horror genre as part of this film's aesthetic, even if they're not talking about horror movies per se. They don't even really acknowledge this movie theater that we're going to be introduced to Spike in. But this is going to be kind of a classic 80s high school dynamic. Cool dude, dorky guy.
cool dude, dorky guy, really dorky. Stephen Jeffries was 24 years old when he made this film. He looks like he's trying to project around 13 years old or something, maybe a little older, because he's interested in women to a certain degree, sort of. I mean, Spike looks a lot older and projects older. So it's weird that they even go to the same school because they do both go to school, I think. Anyway, Spike's around the school. I mean, I can't figure out how old Hoax is supposed to be. I can understand, like, not needing to telegraph why Spike lives there as his cousin. His dad's gone out of the picture, whatever. Like, we don't need to, we can piece all that together. We've known enough blended families. The layout of the house, it's almost like there is a courtyard that you're looking across to because the two houses are constructed similarly. But does she really have that much money to have that big of a house that has a wraparound courtyard? I mean, it just, a lot of it doesn't make sense, but we'll leave that to the dream logic of this film. The dream logic that tells us that smoking in the boys' room consists of this New York subway station esque spray painted jungle, right? That's the sort of like logic that we're dealing with here. But I like the intro to this film entirely, where we're dealing with people we don't know. Um, like a woman in high heels running through the streets who has called this number and the phones are ringing all around her. A man in a trench coat running up to some weird Playboy mansion that is equally spray paint covered. And they're running away or to something. It's hard to tell. Phones are ringing all around them. They don't really telegraph what sort of horrors befall them, like death and destruction for one. Like that happens, one of them gets blown up, but like it's just this like unspoken evil that is tormenting them, that has something to do with the phones. So when Spike finds that card in his magazine that he's reading that has the 967 evil number on it, i i, I want to know, like, is he chosen, do you think? Is it just luck of the draw? Are these little cards in magazines all across the county and many people are finding them? Or was it just something that was a previous campaign and he's a late comer?
I'm getting a prophetic nature to all of these cards falling down. I don't think that this is random at all. I
Mhm.
think that it seeks out people in want. Everybody wants something. And I think that Spike fits the bill as somebody that could be easily corrupted. Now, we don't know one way or the other because we got a kid. He is gambling, he is smoking, he is like playing with nudie cards lids. He's all over the place. Horror movie marathon, movie theater hangouts. He's got to be up to no good. But then also his aunt is going to let us know that he had been failing school and he had been staying out all night. He has no discipline, and now, Lydia, he is even stealing money, which we learn one of the weirdest nuggets that is just left hanging, aside from the fish that we'll talk about in a minute. but the weirdest nugget is his aunt informing him that your dear mother, who is now departed, left you a fortune that is only to be used once he hits the age of 21. He has a trust fund. And in the meantime, until that trust fund is released to him, she is using the money how she sees fit. This implies that she is actively stealing from her dead sister's son's trust fund, which is wildly illegal. Like she should not be able to access it, let alone that. But it also implies that his mother was fucking rich. So I think we know how they afford this house and this courtyard like aesthetic in a pneumatic tube. This is because that doesn't come cheap. All that suction lids cost money.
Yeah, no, it must. So do those wigs. Like that explains where all of her wigs have come from. It's weird that she treats him like, I don't know, like the monster in the attic, so to speak. And lives the flowers in the attic lifestyle of having all of these beautiful furnitures covered in plastic, all of these wigs, all that makeup. I don't know what she does, like if she drinks or something, because she disappears, it seems, for all hours during the day. And she's just there at night to bitch at these boys, pretty much. But he gets a prophecy from the phone that there's basically riches in the fishes or something like that. And he translates this as, because like with any horoscope, there's a bit of translation to be done for the good one. You know, you get fortune cookie that's like, happiness may be closer than you think. And then I nudge my husband and be like, he's right here. Because you're translating it, right? Where someone else might get that and say happiness may be closer than you think. And they think about that trip that they have planned in 2 weeks to Taiwan or whatever, like people will translate it. However, he has translated like, oh, I better go and break into my aunt's kitchen and steal the money I know she has secreted away in this little fish thing that she has in a top cupboard. And he gets caught doing this. It's all to pay off gambling debts or to have money to go back and gamble back the money, because he's pretty sure he's going to win, because that's what the fortune said, that if he goes gambling, he'll win all his money back, basically. He's translated it to say that, but he gets caught doing this, and that's where we get this revelation that is, I didn't even notice. I didn't even pick up on that she might be ferreting all this money away as a guarantor, or it's being held in escrow in her estate or some shit. Yeah. It still doesn't explain why Hoax is so brain dead.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of failure to launch or something with Hoax, or just being babied. And the reason why the Tammy Faye Baker thing came up is because she spends all of her days seemingly watching a nonstop broadcast of some televangelist that she seems, so like, it just reminds me of the Bakers, right? So I don't know, like that's what it reminds me of. And she's got like a million cats and shit. She's like a walking, talking cliche. Now,
Yeah.
what's going to happen is this argument is going to blow out into the street, and all of a sudden the skies are going to open up, but not with rain, with fish. This is one of the strangest aspects of the film, and it's going to set a lot of things in motion. And it's never really going to be addressed outside of the fact that it's a prophecy of some sort. It's ushering in supernatural forces, and it is an omen of dark things to come. And it is also going to, if you didn't think that this movie could get weird enough, there's an entire B plot that this fish rain scenario has created, in which we'll be introduced to Randy, who sometimes is a private investigator and is sometimes a journalist to a religious magazine. Like, talk about things that are completely dated.
Totally dated, and could be quasi-related. Maybe he has the one job because he has the other. He seems to have the reign of the town like Dr. Loomis does when he enters a town.
Yes,
aside from waving a
absolutely.
gun around, he can just walk
Yeah.
into the school and demand access, or like to talk to students, or like go into any business and just have the run of the place. And he does have the run of the place. I think it's kind of cool because he's almost gonna be like, he could be like a Constantine character if they made him more interesting, but they don't. They just leave him as sort of a cold fish, if you will. I like the fish through the pneumatic tube as a hoax. Wink, wink. Like,
Oh
what
my
the
God.
fuck? It's the dream like state of this movie, right? Where you can send a fish through a pneumatic tube with a note to your cousin while he's banging a chick.
There is a woman, this is Susie, and you might not notice Susie's introduction into this movie until you see her, on top of Spike going to town. But beforehand, she is introduced as one of his high school friends who he manages to coerce a date out of. This, by the way, is happening at the same time Hoax, who we learn a little bit about these boys' dynamic at the high school. And the dynamic is effectively Hoax is bullied by Marcus and his friends. All of these people look far too old to be teenagers, whether it be Rags or airhead or gang girl. They don't even give the girl a name. She's gang girl. And so you have these people who are sitting in this bathroom that looks like something out of fucking a dream sequence from A Nightmare on Elm Street. Like it's really striking, the set design of this location. And it seems like Marcus, although a bully and an extortionist, is kind of affable, and he and his friends seem to, at first you would think that Spike is part of this gang, but it seems more like Spike is just a person within orbit of this gang, and he likes to gamble with them. And I don't think he would consider them friends, but he's definitely people that he can pal around with and tolerate. They're not going to mess with him because he's a tough kid, right? So they only really like to extort nerdy kids. We see Marcus kind of extorting one random faceless kid. He's like, you're going to only eat lunch Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then you give me $1 all these other days. So, it's like you can eat lunch those days. And he's like, don't pout. This is a good deal. Like, I'm doing you a favor. Like, he's that type of bully. And I mean, Hoax is just straight up getting a swirly. Hoax also seems to have like this power fantasy that he wants to live vicarious through Spike. He wants to be like Spike. He looks up to him, not only as an older cousin, because I'm going to assume that at the very least, Spike is a senior and Hoax is a junior or whatever. Hoax seems to be able to at least drive. He's got himself a little moped that he treats like the Harley that Spike has, and wants to be cool because he dreams about this road trip that they might take. If only they had a couple of babes. And that's where Susie comes in, who's kind of a tough chick. She's got earrings with crosses on them, and she smokes. Everybody just smokes like crazy in this movie. Mm-hmm. And we are going to get this dynamic. You can see that Hoax is really yearning for more. He wants the power that he views Spike having. He wants to be able to beat up the bullies. He wants to get the babes, as he says. And he doesn't really believe that there's any way that he could do that. So he's just going to, again, remain as close to Spike as possible, even though Spike, aside from looking out for Hoax one way or another, he doesn't really want him around too often. He's a lone wolf.
He is a lone wolf. And I mean, if anyone's going to cramp your style, it's going to be this Hoax kid, because he's inappropriate. He dresses weird. Like he's either dressing like a little Poindexter with like saddle shoes and a sweater vest, or in his pajamas. He goes about in his pajamas quite a lot. And he is just like, I don't know, maybe has the mindset and the humor of a 6-year-old boy, 7-year-old, like, ooh, boobies kind of level of humor going on there. So he would cramp his style no matter how hard he tried. Maybe Spike is just waiting for him to grow up a little bit before they go on this road trip. I guess he's gonna have to wait till he's 21 to get his money to afford the second Harley or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't want to hang out with him too much either. But yeah, like he does have his own sort of orbit. But I think this is true of the cool guy with the motorcycle in a lot of the films, where he doesn't just, hang out with this particular group, and there's no one really like him to hang out with. And he maybe is a little more intelligent than the drones that he is trying to win back his gambling money from. And he's like also not into the goody two shoes lifestyle either, right? So he's sort of like straddling and above a lot of the little cliques in high school. So I can totally get behind that. Why he doesn't just take off or go and get a job at a garage fixing bikes or whatever it is that those kind of guys do is beyond me, because there is an auto parts store in this town. He could go work at the diner too, right? In this film, you'll notice that a lot of stuff, owing to this sort of like dream level of being, everything's named after the devil. It's Dante's Diner, the Diablo Theater. The auto parts store is probably like Hell on Wheels or some shit. Like there's little devil cakes in a box on a table. Like there's devil this, Satan that, hell everything, Dante, Virgil. Yeah, everywhere. I'm surprised Marty's name is Marty.
I think the aspect of Hoax that you're picking up on, because he's In the parlance of the nerdy people, right?
Yeah.
Of dorks portrayed. You have nerds, you have geeks, you have dorks. Hoax is a spaz,
He's like
like
Urkel.
straight up. And I think that one of the things that's so off-putting about him is that nervous condensed energy where he's giggling inappropriately and seems very tense and coiled, but and exceedingly nervous. And the more he tries to act relaxed, the more off-putting it is. And he really is off-putting and a creep, because while Spike is going on this date with Susie, they are literally just having sex, and he is watching them through a telescope, like a powerful telescope, and then even goes so far as to send a message like "nice butt, Hoax," and hey, like, just so you know, I'm staring at you. And if that's not enough, when Susie and Spike leave after their love making, he goes to the bedroom and just steals her underwear that she left behind and puts it in his back pocket. And what we are going to learn, that this pair of underwear is his ultimate downfall. Spike is going to take Susie to this theater. And the reason why he's going to do this is because he believes that he can win back this money. And so his idea of a date is, you're going to sit there while I gamble and kind of just be my chick. They have a random gang girl that they didn't bother to name in the movie. No one says her name even once. And in the credits, it's gang girl. I don't know why I'm fixated on that. But
Because it's so demeaning. Because it's so terribly demeaning. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And demeaning is the word for this. And there's a couple of other things that are like, again, through a modern lens. And I understand that films are not responsible for the eras in which we view them versus the eras in which they were made. But it's very interesting, not in like, this is so misogynistic, but it's so interesting about the type of person that Hoax is, because I think this skewers, much like, you know, a lot of people are talking about this movie Obsession that is making big waves in horror these days. This skewers this idea of like the little nice guy who's actually a colossal fucking piece of shit, which Hoax is. And we're going to learn through this encounter that he's not much better, because he steals her underwear, and Spike is very dismissive to Susie. And this is going to be the most like teen romp comedy. You almost think that Susie thought she wanted to get with Spike, but Hoax is going to be this nice guy that's going to take on a pizza date, and they're going to joke and they're going to laugh. They're going to have a good time. But unfortunately, Marcus and his gang of bullies are everywhere you want to be, like seemingly simultaneously.
And they are, I don't know, they don't eat, they don't sleep. I don't understand what they do aside from gamble. They rarely tend to the actual theater the pretenses that they work at it, or one of them does anyway. They just basically follow Hoax around to beat him up all the time, because they are everywhere he wants to be. The last 15 minutes of the film here, there's two things that I think are really interesting. Is that it's weird they spend so much time selling us the idea that she's leaving her panties there and wearing Spike's boxers around, but they spend very little time focusing on how weird it is that Hoax pockets these panties. And like you said, it isn't the fault of the film. And it's not even the fault of all the films around it that are doing the exact same thing, because this was not made in a vacuum. This was not a new thing under the sun. This sort of behavior of this character was, you know, exactly that. It was born out of that era entirely. But one thing that was really cool is when Spike goes to pick her up on his motorcycle, a real live bat swoops into the screen and hovers over his head for a second and then takes off. And I thought it was so cool. It's just that little bit of like movie magic, right? Well, not even movie magic, like real life movie magic where, something unexpected happens. A real live bat decided to grace them with its presence. I thought that was so cool. But I'd have to look and see if other people have talked about it, or I'll throw a still up or something, or tell you a timestamp so you can go see the bat for yourself. But this date, maybe it's owing to the fact that she is too young for a real relationship, that going out for a soda and pizza date is a little more her speed.
Yeah, and it's a shame because this movie is going to really mess with your perception of what direction we possibly could be heading in. Because I'm telling you, it's so jarring, this sequence, when you think about it. Starts with Susie and Hoax seeming to genuinely have a good time. And when
Mhm.
Hoax is relaxed and having fun, he's able to crack jokes that she responds well to. She he allows his inner weirdness to come out. You know, he likes spiders, which is something that's going to come into play later because he has a pet spider that we're going to learn about. And we know that Susie's deathly afraid of spiders now. And it seems as though, if not a budding relationship, like, oh, maybe she could see that Hoax really is this nice guy that she could get to know better. Maybe a guy like this is good for her, because it seems at the very least she had a rough life that had led her to this school and this place. And it doesn't seem like she really knows what she wants. But it's all going to come crashing down when Marcus and them show up. And she is going to defend him, leave him alone, guys. And through the thralls of them pushing him around, throwing him down to the ground, threatening to beat him up, it's revealed that he has stolen her panties. She does take one last moment to pull the guys off of him. And then she just says, I thought you were different. And then she walks out of the room. This is fascinating to me about why Hoax makes the decision that he makes next, because he himself has already been tainted by the horoscope that we learned that Spike has rejected. Because you had mentioned that, why doesn't Spike just fix bikes? Well, it's because he has people to fix bikes for him. This auto shop, he's waiting for parts. And before he has a conversation with Randy, he's going to be tempted by the horoscope phone one more time.
And this actually is interesting. I'm wondering, in a way, is Marty secretly investigating the phone line? Because he has all these questions about the fish. For sure he has. Of course he has questions about the fish. If I were a reporter for a religious magazine, I would have questions about the fish. I'd be wanting to find out why they fell only in that localized area. Are they specifically religious? I wouldn't be asking just general questions about the fish. I'd have some very pointed questions about the fish. So it leads me to believe almost that he's investigating the horoscope number, which why didn't they call the movie Horoscope? Was there already a movie called Horoscope?
I don't know, but there should be. There's this aspect that we're going to see about Spike's personality, which I bet you wouldn't suspect, because he wants those fingerless gloves, Lydia. He is a cool biker dude. Cool biker dudes need fingerless gloves, as you well know. And the horoscope says, basically, real men just take what they want, which is a signal to him stealing. And he goes to take it and he shoves it in his pants and goes to walk out the door. And he thinks better of it. And he goes back and he puts it back. And then he goes and waits for the muffler that the mechanic that knows him well enough is getting set up for him. This is going to result in a rejection of this horoscope, of this 976 evil, of this Mr. Dark. And this is going to trigger an event. Now, we've seen this 2 times before, and this sheds light on what has happened to previous people who seem to die at random. One woman dies via a phone store exploding, Lydia. A phone store. Remember those?
A phone store with all of the weird novelty phones. It didn't have the hamburger phone, but it had the high heel shoe phone. It didn't have the see-through phone, but it had the princess phone. It had all these different
Mm-hmm.
phones. Did you ever have
It
a novelty phone?
Holy shit, I'm so glad you asked. We had that exact fucking duck phone, the exact one. And
That's awesome.
for those of you who don't know, the story behind the duck phone is my Aunt Mary. Her and her family got the duck phone because My uncle was obsessed with ducks. He had a whole duck themed basement. It was awesome. I loved it.
Mhm.
The duck phone was so fun because when it rings, it quacks. It goes wah 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 wah. That's how it works. And so, of course, us kids were obsessed with this duck phone. So my mom and dad got us a duck phone, and it was a highlight. And seeing this duck phone in this movie always brings a smile to my face. I absolutely adore it. But Spike is not going to die via duck phone like this strange woman that we only met for a couple of minutes. A car seemingly driven by nobody, or perhaps a shadowy figure, we don't know, is going to drive towards him as his pockets erupt in money because he doesn't have a wallet for some reason. And he's going to pick up his change off the ground, and then Randy is going to dive and save his life, in which Spike says, "Hey, I owe you one." He becomes the Fonz. And then they're going to have a very brief conversation where, yeah, like, I believe that you might be right, because Randy is so uninterested in asking questions about the fish, because he's like, "So what about these fish?" "I don't know." "You're not going to make this easy for me, are you?" And that's the end of the fucking questioning. What kind of journalist asks one question, doesn't get the answer, and says, geez, guess he doesn't want to talk? Like,
And then to follow him around, right? Like seeing what else is going to happen. Is he waiting for more fish to fall? Like, he's already admitted that this isn't a normal event and it doesn't happen all the time. And, Spike's idea is something like, I don't know, maybe starfish, star-kissed tuna had a accident or something. Like, I don't know. He just passes it all off because the fish is the least of his worries. Following the horoscopes, getting his money back, getting money at all for whatever reason seems to be a real fixation for him. But I think there's more to it because he is, not shaken off. If he wanted to know more about the fish, why isn't he spending more time? Because he spent very little time with their aunt, or Spike's aunt and Hoax's mom, who is the religious fanatic who would have manifested the fish in the first place, probably. Right? Like, I think that's who
mhm.
I would be talking to.
Yeah, the woman on her knees, literally praying to God for the corrupted soul of her nephew. And then all of a sudden the sky opens up with fish. And I don't see how this could be related. But there's an aspect of Randy's existence where this whole thing reminds me of a rejected X-Files episode, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
doesn't it seem like he could be Fox Mulder, and it would lead you, the fish would be the precursor to this phone line? I'm surprised they never did anything like this. But I'm pretty sure there are episodes where they tackle miracles.
They
I
are,
feel like.
revivals, specifically. They follow a revival and like one of those healers. I've been rewatching The X-Files, which is fantastic because Scully was very influential and interesting to me, not only in her makeup choices, giant shoulder pads, and that she was a grown-up Nancy Drew. I am fascinated by Fox Mulder's choice of ties, which is crazy to me that I never noticed how absurd his tie choices are. And they were deliberately absurd, but I didn't even right over my head. I didn't even notice because I think I was so fascinated by Dana Scully as a character by Gillian Anderson. But David Duchovny, his wardrobe, aside from being 100% spook, right? He wore suits, he had tousled hair. We all know what Fox Mulder looks like, but you don't remember how absurd his ties were. Like, ridiculously absurd, and it's been really fun watching it, but this very much is Marty even begs whoever his benefactor is to stay another day. He doesn't say why, though. He doesn't say, "I'm onto the fish thing," or "I wanna know more about the fish thing," or "I'm gonna watch the woman who the fish fell directly on." The fish didn't fall all over the town. The fish fell on this woman. He doesn't say he's gonna follow her around. He says, there's something more going on here. I'm gonna stay another day." Um, I really think that secretly he's onto the horoscope thing. I do. I really do.
Yeah. Also, I think I've been calling him Randy this whole time. It is Marty. So I just wanted to come correct. That's fine. It's fine. I can be wrong about things. The point is now we are back to what we were talking about previously, which is Hoax. Now, Hoax has been calling the number as well since he discovered it after
Finding the
Spike basically.
panties. Delicious
Ugh,
panties.
oh
He
my
has
god.
panties in his pocket and he don't know what to do with them.
Oh my god. The this has become a minor obsession for him, and this also, upon calling the horoscope, it is said that you need to take revenge on the person that humiliated you, and then you will have her by your side. Is he talking about Marcus and the gang? No. He is going to direct his ire to Susie. This is absolutely fascinating to me through a modern lens to see that a downtrodden male who believes himself to be rejected by society, his masculinity threatened, and who is perving on this woman who is the only person really, like, yeah, she said some snide things to him here and there, but ultimately was nice to him during this encounter and defended him physically defended him against these bullies. And the only reason why she left, even after knowing what she knew, was because he had stolen her underwear away from Spike and put it in his fucking pocket and kept it there. And she, after rescuing him, said, "I thought you were different." No insults, no nothing. Just, "I thought you were different." And Hoax is now like, "No, fuck that bitch. I'm going to get revenge on her because I know she's afraid of spiders." She demonstrated this by being afraid of a daddy long legs. He has a pet spider. He is going to be in his fucking pajamas, shirtless, pouring blood down his hand because this horoscope is going to explain to him how to do this ritual in which he is going to essentially summon a swarm of spiders who he knows is poisonous. But I guess he thought it was going to be like a creepy crawlers thing, like, spiders, and that'll be his revenge. But what ends up happening is Susie's food erupts with spiders and they cover her body and they bite her and she dies. And he tries to halt the ritual by crushing his own pet spider to death in the middle of this pentagram, but it's too late. She drops dead. Even him leaving on his moped, he goes all the way to her house. How he knew where she lived, probably one more creepy ass reason.
Baffles me. Yeah. But I think he just met her, right?
He did just meet her. Perhaps it was like projecting his, because it seems as though he could see what was going on during the ritual. Maybe he could also see where she lived. I don't know. But if we're going to take that logic, let's just say that's what happened. She dies. And this is maybe 35 to 40 minutes into the movie. And this is wild because it really just change, like the film fucks with your expectations because they introduce Spike, they introduce Susie, they introduce Hoax, they introduce these bullies. It's hard to even say what the fucking problem is. Where's the horror coming from? How are they encountering this phone? Who's behind this? None of that matters because Hoax just fucking killed somebody for a very minimal reason.
I read a little bit of it differently, like with Susie saying, when she said, "I thought you were different," she didn't really, because her very first introduction to this kid is him Googling her through the window and her calling him a creep or a weirdo. She right away made up her mind that he was not different, that he was a creep and a weirdo. The same as Marcus is a creep and a weirdo. And I mean, maybe Spike is edging on being a creep and a weirdo to her too, because he dished her to play fucking cards instead of have an actual date with her. So she's just disenfranchised by all the men around her. I really, 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 not to defend Hoax because he's being a little creep, I really think that he thought he was gonna be the big man and save her from the spiders, like he already has. There was that daddy long legs. She was freaking out, and he was like, "Here, I'll save you, little buddy. I'm the hero of the day." The bullies came in and ruined that whole moment he was having, but she was, like, screeching up on the back of a diner seat while he was letting a spider go, and he had saved her. So I think his whole idea was to have the spiders attack and then him zoom over there and save her once again from the spiders and pick up where they left off, so to speak, right? Which I guess would be boobies and babes in bed with Hoax. I guess that's where he thought this was going to go. And it did get like ridiculously out of hand because he's dealing with this horoscope number. One thing I don't get about the horoscope number is why it doesn't infect other people, why it doesn't chase them around town calling them, because the first two people that meet their demise due to the horoscope number are kind of chased around town. It gets cut short with Spike, maybe because it finds Hoax to target instead. But why doesn't it just target everybody? Why isn't Marcus getting phone calls from it? Why isn't the phone ringing off the hook at every corner? Like I want a different movie, I think, at this point, unfortunately. Luckily, it changes tone yet again really soon. And I wish it would have done it sooner. And we would have spent not just the last like 15, 20 minutes where we end up. I wish it would have started 15 minutes ago by this point in the movie, because you're right. We don't know where to point our pecker at this point. We don't know who is the antagonist, who's the protagonist. We don't know what Marty's fucking doing. We don't know where Hoax is going to go next now that the paramedics are pulling his love interest to the morgue, right? Like it seems like the movie's over and nothing's happened. And this is what, halfway through. We're at the pinnacle of action here.
Yeah, because believe it or not, we're going to get to a scene that is effectively, yes, Randy is Spike is in the movie a little bit more, but not really. There is, to answer your question, here's what I think it is. Whether the man at the beginning of the film running to the mansion or the woman dying via the exploding duck phone store, I believe that the reason why they were getting chased all over town was because they, like Spike, rejected the coercion of the phone. I think that this is a process, quite seriously. I believe that you are selected. They put the leaflets out. They are called to you like a Green Lantern ring, and it's your job to dial that number. Then it's your job to continue to call that thing as this thing slowly corrupts you. And then it asks you to do one thing, either steal, commit a sin,
Yeah.
and if you choose to do that, you're Hoax. If you choose not to do that, you're Spike. We see the only reason why Spike was not killed by that car and did not share the same fate as the woman and the man at the beginning of the film is because Marty saved him. That's it. It just so happened that the right guy was there at the right time and spared him. And because the phone then directed its attention towards Hoax, and I believe that was banking on the fact that Hoax would eventually kill Spike, that's how come they're not chasing people all around town. But also there's a bit of an indication that perhaps there's more to this than meets the eye, because this film is going to switch gears as two different plot lines begin to overlay, because Marty is going to show up at the school and he's going to ask for their teacher, a babe, a character
babe.
that we,
Yeah, total babe.
a total babe, who Hoax is going to eavesdrop on that he is talking to them. This is after he's killed Susie. He is then going to, when Marty is talking to this hot teacher that is Spike's teacher, Hoax is going to go and warn Spike, but then also confess that he killed Susie. Spike is going to be so mad that he throws Hoax on the floor and punches a locker and then basically walks away. Hoax is going to say a line that I do like, that basically is like, you think you're better than me because you're bigger and you're stronger. And, Spike says, you couldn't take me, like hell froze over. This ends that. I'm telling you, dear listeners, Spike is no longer the fucking protagonist of this movie after this scene. He has 3 scenes after this movie, one of which has no dialogue, and another scene in which has 2 lines of fucking dialogue. And then there's the end where he just shows up randomly again. Because now we are going to be with Marty, and a huge chunk with Hoax, which I think is what people remember most about this movie.
Totally. And where I wish it had gone minutes ago, many, many minutes ago. Because, yeah, the phone shifts his attention to Hoax. We shift our attention to Hoax. Hoax drags our attention to him by being confronted by his mom about all these numbers, calls to this 967 number, but it's 96. I keep saying 967. It's 976 Lust that is being called. He tries to blame Spike for it, but uh, we already proved he's a little creep. He's like watching people bang through windows with his little telescope. He is just obsessed with boobs and babes all the time. He has kept someone's panties in his pocket and felt forlorn when they were called out for it. You know, he has now is admitting to calling 976 Lust and running up a phone bill. Like, he's admitting it by denying it, in my point of view. So, yeah, everything has definitely shifted to him entirely. I didn't notice that Spike disappeared entirely. I didn't fucking notice. Maybe because I came here for Hoax entirely.
They pepper him in. There's this moment in which Hoax is taunting him in, again, a scene where he has no dialogue. It doesn't really seem to make any sense about what is going on. This movie is going to switch to Marty and their teacher, essentially. Now here's your Scully and Mulder, because they're going to investigate this 976 number. We know, or Marty knows, that this place is owned by this company, and this company has a place of address, and they're going to go there. And this is where we're going to get a little bit of a montage of all the different 976 numbers that are working out of this office, so like adults and sport stuff. And there's like a 24-hour Santa Claus, and of course everyone's a degenerate, everyone's drunk, everyone's not who they say they are. Like even the phone sex worker is like, I think her persona is creepier. She's like, oh, I'm 17. I'm like, ew. But we're going to be introduced to a very sniffly, snotty, sick Mr. Dark, played by Robert Picardo, in like a very early role. It's actually fascinating to see him in this. I almost didn't recognize him. If you're a Star Trek fan, everybody absolutely knows who he is. But and we're going to learn a little bit about the lore of this 976 evil.
I like this idea because this is sort of what you picture, right? When it's like, call the babysitters club, call the flirt chat, fucking city chat, or hot boys, hunky boys on the other end of the line, or like a sex, call the 24-hour Santa Claus, even calling Freddy Krueger himself. You sort of picture it being one of these places. Like it's a little boiler room where everyone has their little booths that you can rent out to do, I don't know, you would do the same thing if you were a salon worker or a masseuse or whatever. These are just happen to be phone operators. And the personas are really interesting. The fact that Dark Mark, who owns this, is Dark Mark Enterprises. I'm surprised it doesn't have a darker name than that, like Lou Cipher. Why didn't we go there if it's Virgil's Auto Parts and, well, really, the Diablo Theater? Why not just give in entirely? Right? So, yeah, Dark Mark Enterprises. I think that they have him be sniffly with a cold so that we don't think he's making the calls because I know, I think it's just Robert Englund's voice for the most part, I think anyway. I don't know who's doing the voice. I guess maybe he is, but
I
it
think
couldn't
it's
be
Robert
him.
Picardo. Yeah,
Is it his voice? Okay. He's
I'm pretty sure.
sounding very Freddy-like in a lot
He,
of ways.
yeah, he definitely is. What I like about this warehouse is everyone's booth is like it's almost like an arena in a fighting game. Like whatever your theme of a fighter is, that's what your booth looks like. Because you go into the Santa Claus one, it's all this Christmas stuff everywhere. The sports one looks like an episode of Coach. And then you go to this Mark Dark's room, and it's like a 1890s study with like high back leather chairs and cobwebs and stuff like that. And he is lamenting the fact that these 976 numbers are this old fashioned form of entertainment, and everyone's more interested in ETs and Ewoks than they are with calling 976 evil. And we don't really get a lot of information here. And also, he talks about this automation process, which I find very interesting. But this automation process also doesn't make any fucking sense. And he never talks about why he wants it to be automated, other than the fact that it would be a no-cost solution for him, and these phone numbers could run 24/7, 365. I guess that's the idea around it.
Yeah, I know he mentions he doesn't want to have to pay holiday pay and things like that. So it is just so that he doesn't have to hire people. He doesn't have to deal with sick days, doesn't have to pay people holiday pay. Uh also says that he's turned it off 2 months ago, and it is covered in cobwebs, and it looks obviously off, right? So, it's not in operating order, which throws Marty for a loop because he's came all the way here to investigate the fish, right? He's not investigating the phones, right? But he's sort of stumbled upon this little angle for whatever reason or however, because he's a great investigator or journalist or whatever it is that he is. I think that he's a priest from the Vatican. That's what I think.
Follow the fish. Follow the fish. It'll lead you to the phone. Yeah, it's hard to say. This entire film is just marred with so many different ideas that they seem to be trying to tape together, much like Mark Dark's cockamamie contraption. It looks like a bunch of answering machines screwed together, covered in dust. And he's like, I invented this myself. I was like, what are you talking about? It looks like you just, anyways.
It's a busy board. That's what it looks like. It's a busy board. I think it's a lot to do with Robert Englund having a good time. He's a bit of a hedonist, sure. This is debut. Who knows what they're doing on a debut? Nobody. He's riding on his own fame. He's like, yeah, people will watch this because I directed it. That's all you need. Oh, we got Stephen Jeffries. People will watch it because he's in it, right? Like, we talk about horror movies. Horror fans will like it because we talk about horror movies. That's all you got to do. We got this little like loose angle, this phone evil thing. People will watch that because like everybody calls sex lines. So everyone's going to do that, right? And their set designer, the girl who's brought all this movie magic to us, he had a little liking for her. He started spending time, according to the book Hollywood Monster by Robert Englund, that Chris has a signed copy of. So I got to read the little snippet about the making of 976 Evil, which he doesn't say a heck of a lot about, except that he was really riding on and wanting to draw bums and seats from his presence and Stephen Jeffries. That's all you really need, right? But it was his third, last, final wife. It's like the final girl in a horror movie that stars Robert Englund. Nancy Booth. He started like creeping on her a little bit, but not wanting to creep on her. So he started saying things like, oh, I haven't done any location scouting for this specific scene, which he had, but he just kept it in his pocket so that she would like go out around town with him. And that's how they met. And I think that sort of like superseded a lot of like plot. We don't need no stinking plot. I got this hot babe.
I like it because that's just Hoax's whole operation, or at least that's what he hopes in his mind. There is that sheds a lot of interesting light actually on this, and it really goes to remind me about what a monoculture things were back in 1988. People don't understand, like nowadays, if you think about like really big movies, Terrifier, Damien Leone's film franchise, is often compared to the Nightmare on Elm Street, particularly by me. And I think that now everything is so fractionalized, even that doesn't really have the same fame and reach as A Nightmare on Elm Street did, where that film franchise enveloped the decade like the fucking Blob. And Robert Englund really did have the world by the balls. And so I could see the logic of Robert Englund, horror maestro, the biggest name in horror, like bigger than any director. Freddy Krueger himself is making a horror movie. You add the convenience of Stephen Jeffries, and all of a sudden it's a recipe for success. It's just so interesting that this film has fallen into complete obscurity. Yes, hardcore horror fans, people who listen to this podcast probably know what this movie is, but man, this is a movie that does not get even mentioned amongst horror aficionados very often, although it does sometimes. But we are going to go to what is probably the set piece of this movie, because Hoax is now believing himself to be as powerful as he had wished to be. He has been imbued. He's taken back the phone, taken back everything that he wants. And by taking back this phone from his horrible mother and been imbued with blue light, he is now powerful demon hybrid thingamajig. And he is going to take his revenge finally on Marcus and his goons, because first he's going to encounter back in the bathroom. I love how much use this bathroom set gets. They're like in this set like 5 times. And Rags, one of the kids' name is Rags, and he gets slashed in the face with Hoax's new claw hands.
Which really not good makeup. There's a lot of makeup scenes in this that are really, really good. And the makeup for those claws sucks so bad. I hate it so much. I hate it so much because it's obviously a glove and not like a Freddy glove. Despite having Kevin Yeager Productions, who did Nightmare on Elm Street makeup, who knows makeup. There's a lot of really great makeup. There's some really great makeup on Hoax at the scenes or the rest of the movie. Lots of great makeup, lots of great gore. Even the slashed face is amazing. I thought it looked great, but that fucking hand, there's times later when he's on the phone and you can tell it's just a glove because his arm is like normal Hoax arm and his hand is like a glove of rubber with sharp claws. It just looks so bad and it looks inconsistent here and there. It makes me so sad, that particular glove. But I do like the contact lenses. I like the bruising on the face. Sure, Hoax is being beat up by these bullies, and not just like roughed up. He was beat up by these bullies. He was put into a dumpster that they kicked and rolled around, and like, yeah, he was treated really badly. So he's gonna have some bruising, but there's like some like blood flecking and veins showing up on his neck and face. So his transformation is really quite interesting. I like it quite a lot. That glove hand, though, man, not a fan.
It might be one of those cases in which HD is not being very kind to some of our older movies. It really just sheds a light on how things don't look all that great when you can really see them clearly. But Hoax is going to have a confrontation, a final confrontation with his mother and backhand her into oblivion. I like that he does go for the parrot and that tells him like not on the couch, not on the couch, because all the furniture is covered in plastic, which is an era that I don't really understand. I suppose it seemed like people's Depression era grandparents would cover furniture in plastic when furniture was just having nice furniture was like a luxury item. And I guess covering things in plastic, but that was always a stereotype that I heard about, but I never actually saw in my real life. But now that Hoax is turning into perhaps who he was always meant to be, he is going to get his revenge on this gang. We have Marcus and his friends where? At the all-night horror movie marathon theater where they always are. They're there in the fucking bathroom, the one of two places. And they're doing what? Drinking labelless beers and gambling. That's what they're doing.
They're playing strip poker, which is just weird. I didn't really notice it right away. Chris had mentioned just how kind of out of place that is, that a bunch of dudes and the one gang girl, she has the most clothes on. So I guess she's a pretty good poker player, right? But yeah, half of them are like scantily clad dudes.
There's something very slithery and vaguely homoerotic about Rags and the way that he, particularly that scene in which the final confrontation between them and Susie before she takes off and then Hoax eventually gets her killed. He's like flopped on top of Hoax while Hoax's stomach is to the floor, and he's like slithering and almost like whispering, almost licking at his ear. And I had noticed, I was like, this whole thing is very, I don't feel like I'm reading into this. And I know that Robert Englund himself had liked to dance with those concepts with Freddy Krueger himself. So maybe he just thinks that it was a way to blur lines or make things uncomfortable. But yeah, I mean, Rags and his friend are in their underwear, and Marcus is like, yeah, go beat up this guy. They don't get dressed. They just, and they're so sweaty and just slinky and slithery. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because I was like, I don't think I'm not seeing what I want to see here. I'm just seeing, this is not subtext, this is text to me.
I was looking him up because I thought, he looks a lot like Billy Drago. He's got this kind of chiseled, evil, kind of sexy face, like these almost like rodent-like features, but not in a bad way, if you can picture that. And I thought, are they related? So I had to look him up, and his name is Jim Tebow, and he had been a rider with Peril Peralta, so he was like a pro skateboarder, which is another place where there was a lot of don't ask, don't tell. Being gay was really looked down upon during that height of like Thrasher magazine, or pre-Thrasher magazine, pro skateboarding things, like pre-Birdman, like before the early 90s, before skateboarding became like really mainstream-ish, but still like X Games-ish. Right before that, when the real pros were pro, he was part of that group, and it was just frowned upon. So it was neat to see in that cusp era when pro skateboarding became a little more accepting, and there was a lot more openly gay skateboarders, and it was a little more allowed and not as bullied. They weren't as bullied, and the bullies were getting bullied out of it. Maybe this was part of that cusp where you get pro skateboarders acting in vaguely homoerotic scenes. I'm wondering now if the rest of those gang members, because they're not like name actors, if they were more skateboarders.
It's entirely possible. I don't really recognize any of them. Even Marcus, who has the most dialogue and screen time, he only acted in a few things. Yeah. So it's not entirely clear to me, but I think that this just skirts the line of these types of tropes, and it's really no way to say. And it could just be like, but it's like the way that they bully him is just very particular. And I think that and I think that when I watch this film, that's just what I'm getting from it. But Hoax has had enough. He has ripped the hearts out of these two people off screen. And this is something that you're going to see a lot with this film. By the way, did you watch the extended version of this film or the cut version of this film?
I don't know. I'd have to go upstairs and look. Okay. Is there a specific scene that appears in one and not the other?
I have literally never seen the extended cut. I've only ever seen the 93-minute version. So I don't know if a lot of the more violent things were cut, but a lot of these kills are going to be off screen. You're not really going to see moments of death. The most violent thing you're going to see is Marcus's hand cut off. I really love this sequence. I really love two things. One, I do like the gang girl character. She's very adorable. And I like the character of Airhead, which gets the second most dialogue of any of Marcus's gang. And also, this is going to lead to them running from Hoax. And this scene is just pure horror fan eye candy. Not only is Marcus wearing like a Return of the Living Dead tank top, there's posters literally all over the place plastering it. This is a movie theater. This is a horror cinephile's dream, an all-night horror movie theater. And now this is the place of violence and conflicts. The walls and the bathrooms are filled with posters, graffiti, damage, muck, dirt, grime. And then when you get to the rooftop, the most adorable thing for poor Airhead is that the gang girl is freezing cold because they're upstairs on the roof, and she was doing a striptease, not unlike the Return of the Living Dead, although she doesn't get all the way naked. And where in that movie, Trash complains about being cold because she's and burning because she's in that toxic rain. But what does Airhead do? Wordlessly just gives her his jacket. I was like, what a fucking gentleman. It's too bad you're so terrible with that chain. By the way, the choreography in some of these scenes is dog shit. Like this is where like you really needed a better editor or Robert Englund to do a couple of more fucking more convincing takes, because it's Airhead is literally swinging that chain like, I'm gonna get you, and he's swinging it so slowly. And the choreography between Hoax, and by the way, Hoax has claws, he's got super strength, he seems a little faster, more durable than normal. He's definitely more durable, we learn later. And we're going to throw Airhead on top of Lydia, the devil pitchfork.
I know. I didn't realize there was a devil pitchfork in the marquee of the Diablo Theater, but I see it now because it's through a guy. I like this scene quite a lot. Later on, they pan back to his body just dying on the fucking pitchfork, and there's flames erupting in the theater and everything. It is so awesome and hellish looking. I really like a lot of the set direction here, but like you said, the choreography has a lot to be desired. And later, we're going to get into some more physical scenes, which demand a lot more physical acting. They just don't bring it. They don't bring it. They're relying entirely on what the house becomes, because he's gone, wreaked some of revenge on his bullies, and the theater is now in flames. I guess it was pretty sparsely populated because there's not a lot of people running out of it screaming.
That begs the question all the time. At no point do they ever show anybody actually patroning this theater. And so it's like, what is the business model here? Are Marcus and his friends employees? Like, is Marcus the projectionist? Because they're up in the projection room. So it makes you wonder, do they work here? But it seems the only thing that dude was focused on before he got his hand cut off was gambling. Also, just as a little note, because we have characters, by the way, if you wonder where Spike is, good luck finding him. But if you another character that drops off the face of the planet is Gang Girl. She doesn't get a death scene. And so you could, it's like, did Hoax spare? I doubt it, frankly. But at the same time, we literally don't know, but I get it. She was a minor character. She had a lot more lines than some other characters though. And she just doesn't get anything. And then, Marcus gets finished off. This sequence, by the way, in the bathroom stalls is really good. I like Hoax. The whole performance is great. He has become like puckish in his charm. He is doing one-liners. He is like materializing out of nowhere. He's really making a meal out of that rubber hand prop that he's got from Marcus. Like he really uses it a lot in this whole sequence as just like a little buddy, like almost like a little puppet, like bye. And he like throws that over someone's Airhead's shoulder. Like I just like how much of a meal he makes out of this prop. But Marcus gets killed. Filthy bathroom. It looks cool though. And then we're into the final stretch of this movie. Holy fucking shit. If you thought that the sets so far were crazy, what do you want to say about his mother's house, what it's turned into?
I'll go there in a second. One thing I love about that bathroom scene so much, so much, is that, and like a few real gems, it's directed so fucking well. When he has, so we're panning away from some kills, whatever. He's going to do what he had done to him. He's going to have a little toilet shampoo, as they put it. He had thrown the severed hand a few stalls away before bearing down on his victim. And the camera pans away and then over all of these filthy toilet stalls to the hand at the end and blood coming up that final toilet. Like it is just such a fucking iconic scene. It is so good. And not enough people have seen it in my estimation. I find that throughout all of this, Hoax is channeling maybe this person channeled some Hoax into some Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 with Bill Moseley. I find there's a lot of like Chop Top in the radio station kind of acting going on here. with Hoax. And I really, really, really like that. I like that his transformation has extended because once we get to his mom's house, his transformation's extended to like his toes start poking out of his shoes and he's like almost werewolf-ish. He had developed a bit of a rat tail from his short hair. Now he's got like weird strands of long hair. Is that like long hair being via V evilness here, Wes? Was a uh oh, what do you call those? Was a mullet not enough?
He looks very goblin-like to me.
That's a good word.
His skin is taking on this green tinge. His eyes are this bloody red. The hair is long and wild. He has pointed ears. And he is really transforming into like I said, puckish. He's like a goblin. It's like it's a magical creature. And like it really does look really good. And I think that the makeup coupled with the performance, coupled with the environment, the effect on the voice, this is really great stuff. Like really, really strong. And it lets you know what people probably already know, frankly, about this is that Stephen Jeffries will dominate any scene that he's in if you take the reins off and put great makeup on him. Did you ever wonder why this guy didn't fucking work more? Like it's just like, is it because it's a one-trick pony? Because we'll get to the Fright Night of it all.
Maybe there was more money in porn because that's where he moved into afterward. Like, was he just not feeling it? Because there's also this, maybe he comes across as so dynamic and interesting to watch on screen because he really, truly, honestly, 100% does not give a shit. Maybe horror wasn't his forte and he was just hamming it up because he didn't really care about giving like an engaging or horrific portrayal. He was just kind of being funny and hokey. Maybe that's it. Maybe he wasn't pleased with his accidental fame that he garnered from Fright Night and on to this film because he didn't act in a whole bunch of other stuff. He tried a few more serious roles from what I recall. And then the most serious and the most bearing down and the most dominating he was in gay porn.
It's one way to make a living.
Probably.
Yeah. It's just such a great performance. And I just want more of it, even though I'm just baffled about where Spike is. And we're going to have Marty and their teacher show up and try to, and we're going to have her explore this house. And this is trippy. This is where I feel like Robert Englund was really stretching his legs as a guy who has regularly been starring in films where dream sequences are the primary focal point, because there is so much atmosphere. The refrigerator left open, so the entire house is a frozen wasteland. We see frozen cats. We see voices from the darkness calling out to her. And this, we hear his mother's voice and we know she's dead. She got backhanded into fucking oblivion onto her plastic covered couch. So we know she's gone. And then we get this horrific sequence in which we encounter her own cats doing what cats will all do to us if we let them: eat us.
Which I think was quite lovely. It was a really good fitting end to the mother as a character. And I really think that this actress wasn't given a lot of direction throughout the film. I really think a lot of times it was just like, here's your wig, here's your motivation, just go. And she bitches at her son and she bitches at her nephew and she flets around the house and she like tries to get the kid to not eat on the furniture, bitches about the furniture, tells him to go to his room, wonders why he's out of his room, wonder why they're up at night. Like just whatever motivation she had in the scene, they would just let her go because was it Sandy Dennis? I had to look up her name. was a great actress, right? So I don't think she was given a lot of direction throughout all of this. Neither were these cats. They did what cats do. And I found it was a perfectly fitting ending, and that she's in her room alone, very fitting to that sort of like mama's boy turned evil kind of trope in fiction and in fact, where they like leave the mother's room kind of alone, and they kind of like, whether they kill their mother or she just dies or whatever, they just sort of preserve the corpse and like shush mummy's sleeping kind of vibe is what I get from that scene. So I did like that. The hell having frozen over is a little tongue in cheek, but it's just done so well that you don't care how tongue in cheek that all of that is. Because I really do like all of these little cinematic touches to this set. It looks so cool. And you're just waiting for that floor to give way, which it eventually does. But it's like so cool where he can just sort of summon hell up from the ground through this frozen landscape. Like he's so powerful that it's like, is he a full-fledged demon now? Has he gone from like imp to troll to goblin to deadite to demon all in the span of like a half hour? I do complain to myself a little bit because his contacts get warped. There's some scenes where the slits of his eyes are like going parallel, like vertical, and then there's times when they're both sort of slanted towards each other. So they go from cat eye to like goat eye, and then one is wonky and one is straight up and down and one is sideways. Like, I don't know if that was just left in for comedic effect, why they didn't retake that. I mean, if I were supervising a scene at all, whether it's effects, the set, script direction, whatever role it was for me behind the camera, I would notice those fucking contacts are crooked.
It might be a time thing. They're like, we're moving on. Close the gate. That's
Yeah,
fine.
it could be, right? We only have them for another hour.
Well, good news. Speaking of our Spike is back.
Oh, yeah, he helps rescue Marty.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Hoax is menacing their teacher, Mrs. Martinez, like taking off her jacket and like ogling her boobs. I feel it's just look at this from this perspective, dear listeners. You have a movie that starts off as almost like a teen horror. Like, comedy is a stretch, but it's like a surrealist, comic booky teen horror movie. And then all of a sudden you have this X-Files investigation that happens. People that you think are the protagonists drop off the face of the planet, and now the villain is the star. He gets a lot of screen time, a lot of dialogue. Someone who might have been the final girl, no, she dies within the first 30 minutes of the movie. Now, who is the damsel in distress that everyone needs to rescue? It's this random teacher that's had like 2 scenes. And it's like almost reminds me about like when Hoax is dissecting the frog and you have this brief scene with his science teacher who's sucking back on an inhaler. Yeah. And it's like, what is this scene for? I don't get it. There's like, you could be using this screen time to do something else, but you're giving this random teacher who has had no scenes before, no scenes previously, a lot of fucking business with his inhaler and just leaving the scene on him. But now it doesn't matter. Here we are. And we're going to have the final confrontation between these boys while Marty and Mrs. Martinez just like precariously walk across a bridge that, by the way, Hoax can like make chandeliers fall and like do all kinds of cool stuff. And he is going to basically taunt his brother or his cousin who has a gun, and he shoots Hoax in the face. And it does damage, but nothing permanent. It's another reminder that the laws of time, space, and even the flesh do no longer apply to Hoax.
I think focusing on that teacher, just to take it back for 1 second, was just clout chasing, more of Robert Englund's favors to friends. This was an actor who was in the movie or in the show Cheers, so probably wildly popular at the time because Cheers was to the 80s and early 90s what Seinfeld was to the 90s and onward. And that what Friends became, right? So everybody knew this fucking guy. He has become completely all powerful. I wish there was more gore in this scene, because we get the height of the gore and the effects in this film from the bullies and in that gorgeous bathroom and the fucking, like, I don't know, locker room that they hang out in and the theater itself. Like, we get all the really cool set piece gore here. We're getting a lot of like fantastical shit here, which is really not my jam usually.
There is something so fantastical and weird about this scene, but you're right. It really dives more into almost an action movie. It's like Killer Party. It's just a lot of stuff blowing around and sets falling apart.
People hanging on for dear life and
and any sort of tension is gone. But what we have here is a bit of a moment in which Spike reaches Hoax, or at least an aspect of him, because Hoax will inform Spike that the person that he knew, that soul, is long gone. Spike does probe once more and promises that they will do this biking trip that Hoax had wanted to do, and Spike definitely seemed completely disinterested and blew him off and didn't want to do it. But he's like, we can go on that trip and you can ride my bike if you want to. It's no problem. And we see this moment, great acting here through the makeup, where he seems to be struggling with what he's doing and this thing that has possessed him. But unfortunately, Lydia, it is not to be, because Spike is going to have to defend himself from Hoax one last time. He is going to throw his cousin into the fiery pits of hell, in which his corrupted soul is now the property of the devil, I'm assuming, because everything closes up. Marty and Ms. Martinez hug, I guess, whatever. And and then we're getting out of here. And Spike is going to go on to, I don't know, be in the sequel, but that is pretty much it. And I could see why people, or you, might find this pretty lackluster, because you had this amazing sequence with these bullies not more than 15, 20 minutes ago. But now you just kind of have what really happens. Everyone shows up to the house. It's a psycho frozen mess. And Hoax says a whole bunch of stuff and then just gets thrown in a hole.
And then what, the two people we hardly spent time with and just met get to couple up, you know?
I guess. Like, that's
at least they wrap it up with a little dark mark.
They do. And they get to show that Dark Mark is indeed and not what he seems, because one of the aspects, Liz, is if you sell your soul, if this is a successful transaction and your soul now belongs to the devil, he is going to take a glossy 8x10 of you and put it in a folder. And
fucking do, right? Like, what is he is just collecting souls? Like,
yeah,
in Hollywood,
it's gotta be
parlance, like he's collecting people like an agent, and he's going to, like, you know, sell their souls forward to, you know, scouts or whatever. So it's weird that he's like, or is he like more like a autograph hound who's collecting 8x10s of people because of his own obsession? So maybe it is just his own compulsion and obsession that keeps him doing this. Or is he a middleman for something far larger that Marty is no doubt on the cusp of cracking wide open?
Yeah, and like, what did they sit for that photo? Did they all have glossy 8x10s already?
Exactly.
Is this just is this Hollywood logic? Like, Robert Englund's like, and then he's got his glossy 8x10s because everyone has a headshot. Everyone has a headshot because he's just been living in Hollywood for too long.
Exactly. That would make a lot of sense, actually. I mean, don't we all have 8x10s, Wes? I don't even think they do 8x10s now anymore. Like, right? Do they do that?
No, they don't even do auditions where you go in a room anymore. You literally do video auditions. Like, people just, you film yourself in your bedroom running lines and you send it in to the director. and that's how they do it, from what I understand. So the old days are gone. I suppose that's a good thing. It keeps people from being exploited, I suppose. But I think that this ending is good. I like that they have Mark Dark played by Robert Picardo. Like, they save that big credit for right at the end, where like, and he's this guy. And it lets you know that he's either the devil or an agent of the devil. It's hard to say, but it's kind of supposed to be that delicious dark humor in which, in a way, the bad guys win, because this seems to be the ultimate goal. At the very least, you call the number, you are tempted to call the number, you are presented with the opportunity to call the number through your own free will. I'm sure this has a lot to do with it. You dial that number, and then at some point you are forced to make a decision. And if you reject the notion that they present to you, you get killed, because I guess you're too far gone. And then does your soul not belong to them? But it does, because that guy that the donut got dripped on. So it seems like no matter what you do, if you call that place too much, your soul is fucked.
Yeah.
So I mean, who knows? But it seems to be a good grift. I sure hope that he can keep the 976 evil number going as long as possible.
Well, he doesn't even have to do anything, because like as soon as you close the door, it seems to whir up and just take calls itself. Like, it's all automated. So even he doesn't even have to be there to eat his jelly donuts over his glossy 8x10s. It's so weird. It makes no sense. Just like a whole lot of stuff in this movie. I really wish that about the 15-20 minute mark is where we have Hoax becoming possessed. That's what I wish for this movie. And then we go on from there and spend a lot more time with his downfall, right? That's what really sells this film. And like you said, what people remember the most about it.
It really seems like they were going for a misdirection, except they just really took their time with it. Mm-hmm. Like, more so than, again, maybe Robert Englund is channeling his inner Hitchcock or his own movie, because Tina, you think, is the final girl in A Nightmare on Elm Street for a little while. Not as long as we think Spike might be. I mean, but Spike does come back. But it's like, I agree, this whole idea about you're trying to corrupt Spike first, and then, oh, that didn't work, we're going to change direction and we're going to try and corrupt Hoax now. It's just weird. They could have done this exact same story, gotten to the good stuff a lot sooner, and Spike could have still played the same role as just his cousin who ultimately wants to do the right thing and ends up having to battle and be the one to put down his cousin. I don't understand why you also needed that. I certainly don't understand why you need Marty snooping around doing all this stuff. But if you're going to include the Marty character, then you don't need the teacher character.
See, there's stuff that is cut out that we don't know that might have made this a more rich story. Maybe that magazine was filched by Spike and it actually belonged to Hoax in the first place. Maybe. There's a little tiny scene, like I took a quick look through some of the comparisons of the extended version and it's not gore. That's not what's cut out. It's all cut for time, it seems. But there is a part where the teacher says, I'm not really religious, but I did grow up for 12 years in a monastery, or like where nuns go, a convent. So maybe there is a more religious angle, a more Constantinian angle that I wish there was, that Marty is an agent of the Vatican or something like that. That is like, that was woven in the original script, maybe.
It's just so strange, because they don't even take the time to really talk to, like, they do so much stuff off screen. The conversation between Marty and Mrs. Martinez initially was like, oh, let's go talk about Spike. Bye. I guess are we not privy to this conversation? And then we're going to see them again together at a diner. And then he's going to be at that warehouse and she's going to show up in her car. Where were you? What do you mean, where was she? What was this plan? What are you talking about?
Yeah, where the fuck did Spike go?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, then they just show up at his house. Are you sure about this? Trust me. Like, what? Anyways, I do love this movie. It's a ton of fun, and it's got beautiful aesthetics, and it's got a cool story and some great performances, but it's just funny looking at what a colossal shit show so much of the plot is.
It would make a better book. I will stand by that. I would love to read a novelization of this that's given to somebody like Tim Wagner, who writes really great novelizations and can have the license to fill in some of those things. Because in a book, you sort of have the time to spread out the story. You're going to spend 12 hours with your audience, right? So you have lots of time to explain shit. And when we're always saying, and something we say about a lot of movies, just one line. We just need one line to make this make sense. We could have had a whole bunch.
Hearing you describe it that way, you're absolutely right. Even just having that scene in which Spike is laying in bed smoking cigarettes and he decides to I'm just going to call the number. It's like a little inner monologue. I know that inner monologues don't really work in film, but in a book, we could be inside of his head and talk about this. Maybe there's some force compelling him to call. It seems automatic. Was this even my idea? Why did I call that number? He hangs up the phone. Why did I do that? I don't care about horoscopes. I don't even know what my sign is. You know what I'm saying? It's because, again, him impromptu outside the bike shop calling the number again. It's just boredom. It's so strange. I agree. A novelization of 976 Evil. Let's somehow get this to the right people and they can do it.
Robert Englund, we know you're listening. You can hear us loud and clear. We know you know the people.
What do we got next for them?
Coming up next, we are in Stephen Jeffries' Heaven and Hell in Fright Night.
I am as shocked as you were when we realized that we had not covered this film. When it comes to horror fans and it comes to 80s horror, when it comes to vampire films, I mean, Fright Night is a huge one. And we've been doing this podcast a long time, and it just seemed so right because watching Stephen Jeffries' performance, I just kept thinking, oh my God. And they even do a little nod with the Fright Night poster in the movie theater.
They do. And this will give me time between now and then. I'm going to take a look because there was a question we were talking before recording about some of the shirts that are worn in this film. And there's one that is kind of unidentifiable. And I'm interested to see if I can discern what film this is because I don't remember it. I'll have to go back and take a look at that scene and see if I can't identify maybe some more Fright Night nods within that film, because Fright Night itself has a lot of nods to other horror franchises, other horror stories, classic horror, Universal Monsters, Hammer, those sorts of things. So between these two films, you're in really true horror heaven.
Just like when you're listening to this very podcast. And on that note, I'm Wes Knipe.
And I'm Typical Lydia.
And you've been listening to Dead Air. If you like this show, you can find more episodes and other content on splatterpictures.net, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. We also upload all episodes to YouTube now, if you'd prefer to listen that way. You can find us across social media like Instagram, X, and TikTok, and the show is edited by Lydia Peaver and hosted by Lydia Peaver and me, Wes Knight. We'll see you next time.